substitute? Who seeks recognition?
Mr. Chairman.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Democratic colleagues seem to be on a mission. They're determined to destroy Attorney General Barr, or at least discredit him in the eyes of the American people. The Attorney General agreed to appear before this committee last week and was ready to answer any and all questions about the Mueller report. However, Mr. Chairman, you and your Democratic colleagues on this committee decided that instead of just answering questions from members of the committee, well, we unprecedentedly were also going to require him to be grilled by a bunch of partisan staff lawyers. Of course, the Attorney General wisely said, no way, and now you're determined to find him in contempt. In my view, as somebody who served on this committee for 23 years, I think it's disgraceful. Last week, when the Attorney General refused to show up for this committee's kangaroo court, the majority set up an empty chair, ate chicken, and pretty much made a mockery of this committee, a committee that was once led by the likes of Daniel Webster. It's worth noting that Attorney General did appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee the day before he was scheduled to come here, where the unreasonable demand that he be queried by staff attorneys was not made. Senators did the questioning themselves, as is normal, and the same should have been the case here instead of Chickengate. And let's be clear, it wasn't a day at the beach in the Senate for the Attorney General. The senators themselves were perfectly capable of being rude, abusive, and arrogant all by themselves. They didn't need their staff to do it for them. So why this passion to tear into William Barr, an Attorney General, at least up to this point in his career, considered a person of upstanding, in fact, outstanding character? Well, first, our Democratic colleagues are apparently really ticked off about the Mueller report, that it found that the whole Russian collusion thing was a big fat zero. And even though the obstruction of justice allegation wasn't as clear-cut, Special Counsel Mueller found that there was insufficient evidence to pursue a charge against President Trump or against anyone else for that matter. Excuse me, William Barr did that. So Democrats are mad about that, but what I think is even more important is that our Democratic colleagues are afraid. They're afraid that unlike former Attorney General Sessions, who had recused himself from anything related to the Mueller investigation, Bill Barr is going to dig into the origins of the bogus Russian collusion allegation itself. The Clinton campaign funding of the Steele dossier was the actual collusion between the Russians and the political campaign. Is that something that's finally going to be looked into? That was the real political collusion with the Russians. The FBI's involvement in trying to tip a presidential election in favor of one candidate over another, the whole Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all of that. The idea that Trump may have been right, that his campaign really was spied on by elements of the Obama administration, despite the fact that this accusation was met with such derision by most of the mainstream press at the time. The bottom line is many Democrats on this committee, and in fact many Democrats in both the House and the Senate, apparently believe that finding out the truth in these matters may not be helpful to them in the upcoming election cycle. And the best way to undermine the results of the investigation, the true investigation, which is really about to happen, might just be to destroy the credibility of the guy who's doing the investigation, the Attorney General, William Barr. And let's begin that process, apparently according to the folks on the other side of the aisle, and the chairman included, by finding him in contempt. That's the way we can really discredit him. At least that's the way I see it. And I yield back.